It's 1:05 on the 15th of March, 2022. We're opening the Open Space Committee meeting. We're being videoed. We have 2 sets of minutes from previous meetings that we should review and accept. The first one we did review was from the November 23rd, 2021 meeting, and we did review it. There were no changes, and we did not accept it. So I move to accept.
You'll entertain a motion.
I'll entertain, after all these years I could figure it out. I'd entertain a motion to approve of the minutes from November 23rd, 2021. All in
So
favor?
moved.
All in favor?
No, you need a
Second.
I moved it, Becky seconded. Okay, now yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, they're accepted. All right, and now we have also the minutes from our last meeting, February 22nd, 2022. I reviewed them. Anybody see any changes? I make a motion to
No,
accept.
we'll entertain.
Okay. I entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, accepted. All right. Now we'll move on to, we have a guest here. This is Danny Marini, who is from the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, and we have a grant from them for $18,000 to get our open space plan up to date for 7 years. So, and we have until July of next year to complete it, but we're going to try to get it in before the end of this year so that we give them enough time to review it. They make changes.
Yes.
So we reviewed them. We all had our little projects. I don't know what you want to take over from here.
Sure, I will, let's start off with the survey. So I put together a survey based on what you had in your last plan, or you used in your last plan, and then sort of how we've updated it since then with some other towns we've worked with. I did send out the OneDrive account. That's where I'll store everything. That way you guys have access to it. Try to save some paper that way. But if you need any paper copies, just let me know. I can run to the office and print things for you guys. So it's up in there now in the public input opportunities. There'll be 2 folders in there, which you may have seen, called Public Forum, which nothing's in there yet. We haven't planned that yet. And then the survey. So the draft survey is in there. Did folks have a chance to look at it? I see you printed one off.
Make my notes.
Okay. If you didn't have a chance to look at it, that's not a problem. We don't need to approve it today or anything like that. If you did have a chance to look at it, if you've got any comments, anything you want me to change, you want to let me know now?
Page 3.
Okay. And if you do look at it, it won't look like this when it gets published, because it'll be on Surveymonkey, so there won't be all those big spaces that you see there now. It's just how it kind of looks when we turn it into a PDF. All right, page 3. How strongly do you support Douglas, that question?
Yes.
Okay.
All the way to the very last one.
Okay.
To link existing conservation land together to increase landscape connectivity, habitat space, trails, and the ecological value of our open space.
Add trails?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay.
I just have a odd question on page 5.
Okay.
In order to preserve open space in Douglas, would you be willing to? Did we want to put the question about was it CPA in there? CP?
Yeah, Community Preservation Act.
Yes.
Yeah.
Becky, can you just read off the options that are there now?
Vote to allocate town funds to acquire or otherwise conserve open space. Support a requirement for all new residential developments to include conservation open space areas. Favor zoning that provides for increases in density in existing developed areas in exchange for open space in less developed or environmentally sensitive areas. Consider allowing an easement, i.e. public access or development restriction on a portion of your property in order to add to existing open space or connect open spaces. Example, to access a hiking trail or extend a bike path. Support wetlands bylaw to limit development activities adjacent to any wetlands resource area.
Do we like those options? Too many? Or ones we know that'll get turned down right off the bat?
That last one on wetlands, is that included in other towns?
So yes and no. If a town already has a wetlands bylaw, we don't include it. Or if there's no interest in adding a wetlands bylaw because you think the Wetlands Act is enough protection, we can get rid of those.
We can double check, but I believe we have a wetlands bylaw.
Okay.
I was just wondering if this was a good place to add CPA thing again.
Yeah.
I agree.
Would support CPA.
Yeah, I got a template that we've used in other towns. Some committees are hesitant to add that, just because, when you're asking for additional taxes from folks, it usually, it's tricky. So I'll find a way to word that, so hopefully it's a little bit more friendly to folks. But yeah, I'll add the
Say consider a CPA, add CPA for the town or something.
No, but it has to say Community Preservation Act that would add funds toward the purchase of open space, recreation, affordable housing.
Explain what it is. So
Yes,
that
and trails, I think, because otherwise it's just alphabet soup.
I will, I'll try to fit in here. If it seems like it's a little bit too wordy for that question, I might just make it its own question. That way I can add some more background information on what the CPA is.
Page 7. What do you consider to be the biggest unmet open space needs in Douglas? Please rank the following. Your first question there has additional protected woodlands, meadows, or stream corridors to protect the diversity of flora and fauna and trails?
And trails, sure.
You can see a theme here, sorry.
No, I like adding trails. So.
connectivity and all that.
Right. And the next page, 8. What do you consider to be the biggest unmet recreation needs in Douglas? Please rank. Your first one that says paved multi-use recreational trails, please take out paved.
Picked and paved, okay.
Yes. I'm not right.
We already have a fight going on about that. So, multi-use recreational trails is good.
Well, before we move from there, Tim, do you have any,
Yes.
does the rec committee discuss any particular needs that they'd like to see added to at least to the survey?
I can bring it back to them, for sure. I'm sure how long is the survey right now?
It's 22 questions long. It's pretty lengthy. I think Surveymonkey estimated it would take about 18 minutes to complete. So that is something we might want to talk about if we want to reduce the size of that at all. But I'm happy to add any additional questions or add, if you have certain components, I can send you a copy of this.
Yeah, that would be good. My thought is, do you have some parks and rec questions in there now?
Yeah, so what I did is, so it's for the open space and recreation plan. So I tried to categorize sections so that we'd focus on open space protection or adding additional opportunities there, as well as recreation. So we can keep them a little bit separate. That way folks don't, I feel like there's value to conserving land and also value to adding recreation. So if we lump them together, sometimes one sort of outweighs the other.
Okay.
But if you can make sure, because usually when we have a list included, but does it include I don't know, maybe there's something that pickleball is all of a sudden hugely popular, but it's not on the list. It would be great to know from your folks, should we add that, or
Right.
something like that?
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, lacrosse for what, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
As much as that pains, I'm a baseball guy, and as much as lacrosse pains. me to
Frisbee
see,
golf.
Into the season, there is an interest for sure. I know this is your meeting, and I don't mean to step in, but you did touch upon the trail question. If the goal is to get people to complete the survey and ask the question straight up, do you support the state of the Commonwealth lining a stripe of asphalt down your trail? Now, I don't support that. I'm on record as saying that is offensive to me that they would do that. But you will get people to respond to the survey. And I think you'll find that people don't support an asphalt down the mid-state trail.
Yeah, we pretty much gotten that idea from everybody,
Yeah.
so, and it's, we're just waiting to hear back from DCR to see what they're,
Yeah, no, I told Senator Fatman the other day that I will lay in front of the steamroller because they drop that in our town. So, but to get people to complete the survey, you may tickle them with a heavy lead-in.
thought.
Like, if you've heard of this potential thing, how do you feel about it? Or, maybe they're not knowledgeable.
Page 10? You have homework on this one anyway.
Okay, page 10.
About halfway down,
Okay.
utilize hiking, biking, or cross-country ski trails. We have a fairly large contingent, and there's also a lot of people that drive to this town that ride horses, so I just want to add
Equestrian trails,
hiking, biking, or horseback riding.
horseback riding, okay.
Equestrian, yeah, either one. Equestrian sounds better.
Or even just multi-use trails, rather than pinpointing one or the
I
other.
know there was a few places that use this passive and active and stuff like that. I have seen the lines blurred on passive recreation. What I think it might mean might be something totally different to her.
We have to be specific.
We can, we can add text into the survey, so if we want to define what we, as a committee, believe is passive versus active recreation, we can definitely do that to clear it up for folks.
Yeah, it's like the state, shared use paths. If you hear shared use paths, I would think that would be anyone like the Sinet. That's a shared use path. There's all different kind of uses on it, and we're sharing it. No. State shared use path is mostly paved, like 99% paved, and it's biking and walking.
Right.
So it's the devil's in the details.
Yes. So anybody who wasn't able to look at it, that's not a problem. I'll email it out to you all. And then if you want to review it, send me any comments, questions, suggestions. Like I said last time, this is a survey for your town, so if you want to rip it apart and rebuild it, make it new, make it more useful for what you think your residents are more willing to answer, or if you want to avoid debates or any sort of controversy, that's fine too. Or if you want to add it so you get more folks to respond to the survey, that's fine. I'll send that out later today, and then maybe in the next week, if you could review it, send some comments, and then if it's good to go, we'll talk about sort of what our outreach looks like.
Did you get Tim's address?
I can give that to you.
Yeah, if you don't want to speak it on camera, that's fine.
Oh, no.
Well, we can track him down.
Yeah, no, I'm.
Got it.
But can we talk about timing? Because I'd really like to make sure this gets out
Town
before
meeting.
town meeting, and maybe we can even put a blurb in the.
For sure. Remind me,
blurb in the booklet.
2nd, right? The town meeting is May 2nd?
May 2nd?
Sure.
And where are we at now? March 15th? And we can keep the so, you know, say everything looks perfect and we decide in a week we're going to launch it, we can keep it out open as long as we want. So if we, you know, if we end up opening it next week and you want to get it in for your town meeting, we'll keep it open. That's perfectly fine. There's no end date or required end date for it.
Well, we were thinking just be a place to be able to turn them in, right, at the meeting, or was there additional stuff at that?
Depending on how many pages this is, how many pages was it printed out?
Let's see.
I think you were up at 10 or something?
16. I did 8 double-sided.
I think if we, so this is just a PDF that was pulled off of Surveymonkey. If we wanted to fill it or have paper copies, I would take all the information, put it in a Word document and condense it, so you don't have all that open space or that wide space there.
And is like 22 questions like typical? Is that
Yeah.
longer, is that shorter?
It's pretty typical for our open space plans. You know, if you're going to pass out surveys potentially at the town meeting, we might want to adapt it, make it a little bit shorter. Because I think it could be pretty daunting opening up a 10-page survey to respond to. And we can talk about that too for the online one, if we want to reduce it down, and if you find some questions are sort of redundant or not needed, we can definitely get rid of some of those.
Excuse me, Tim, you know, as far as you know, are we still on the regular schedule for town meeting and election? It's not changed because of...
Oh, no, yeah, we're good.
Okay, so that,
We are
it's the Monday the 2nd.
closing the warrant tomorrow. The date isn't on here. I think that May 4th is a Wednesday, so the 2nd, that
Yeah.
sounds right.
Okay. I don't know. I was gonna, maybe, you don't want people going into town meeting and picking it up on the way in, because then they sit there and they're doing,
Right, they're not listening.
Not paying attention, yeah.
but maybe if we handed them out on the way out, and then offered a place to drop them off at where people come to vote, maybe that would make sense. Or in here somewhere, remember
Right,
we
that-
had a box?
Yeah. Well, we had the library, the post office, and here, right?
Yeah.
And I can create a poster for you guys. We'll do one anyway when we create a flyer for the survey. We can just blow it up a little bit bigger, put a QR code on it so folks could scan it with their phone, and then, you know, on the way out after town meeting, scan
If you
it.
had like a little piece of paper that we had that just,
Or
this
some-
is how you
a
access
postcard
it,
or-
and this is how you can scan it, and this is where you can turn it in.
Yeah, we could do that too.
You
That might
know,
be better than just wasting all the paper to,
yeah.
print off.
And printing that
Yeah.
up. But
Yeah.
maybe go, you know, have a couple of available copies at the library or something like that that they can pick up.
yep.
Maybe as they check into town meeting itself, to urge people to,
Grab a piece of paper that says, this is, yeah.
or scan, take a picture of it, have it on the table. And they just scan it, and they've got it on there. But then, like you say, then you're distracting them while town meeting starts.
Yeah, they're sitting there on their phone
Yeah.
doing it. I can imagine, yeah.
Well, and then the moderator asked for announcements too, so we could ask him to announce it. Right.
Right, we could just put a table on your way out the door. By the door, there's a table with a basket in it that has what, you know, and then walk right by, because everyone's visiting after town meeting.
I saw in the news yesterday, they did a drone, what they call QR codes, is that right? A drone QR code, so there was thousands of drones that went up into the sky, and then people would take a picture of that. I'm not saying get drones, but you could have Keith put the QR code on the PowerPoint at the end, and people could snap it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. What's cool about the drones?
Yeah, that was a neat idea, creative.
It doesn't matter how big it is?
No, that's the amazing thing, I was shocked at that.
Wow,
Yeah.
Okay.
that's a good idea.
Any other outreach ideas for the survey? Like I said, I'm going to create a flyer once we have everything ready to go. And I'll send that all to you. I'll send a draft of it to everybody. So if you have any changes you want with it, if it's too wordy, not wordy enough, we can make those changes. Usually what I've found in other towns is they rely a lot on social media or like posting the flyer on the town's website, or, you know, any of the town's Facebook pages, emailing it out to listservs, things like that. I had a town that gave the survey to the schools and had the kids fill them out, which is great. Usually we don't get a lot of youth engagement with the survey, so if we can get it to the schools to get, you know, that youth
You
voice.
can bring it home, too.
Exactly. That's a good option. I've seen folks have made signboards and stuck them at parks around town, printed stuff off, put it at the local grocery stores, at the library, town hall.
If it has the scan thing on it.
You just pull it up. You know, scanning or filling it out online is not going to work for everybody. So, you know, senior center or library, you might want to have some paper copies there so folks could take them, and we just would want to put a location to drop them off. But those are some options I've seen in other towns that have worked out pretty well.
Yep.
Okay. Second thing that I did, if we're all good on the survey for now, and like I said, you know, take time to review it, send me any comments, you know, no comment is too extreme. I also set up a folder where we'll put all of our goals in, and I added a folder with some example goals from other towns that I've seen. We don't need to copy those goals at all. These should be, you know, targeted to Douglas, but it, you know, might help you gauge where you want to go with the goals, or think, oh, that'll work in our town too, so we should maybe adapt that into a goal or an objective. But I felt that would be useful because I think the way that the goals, objectives, and actions, how they were structured in your old plan, we sort of adapted that into a new format. And so this will be, I think, a little bit more helpful just to see how the goals and objectives have changed thus far. Do you want me to run through some of the goals that have been in other towns? I don't know if that would be helpful right now, or if you want to just take a look when you get, I can send that out again too.
Yeah, we might as well look at it on our computer at
Okay.
home, I mean.
And there's no sort of action items with that, just look at them, and then maybe at the next meeting, if you want to come in with a list of potential goals, or at least themes that we want to see promoted throughout the open space and recreation plan. I think that'll be helpful, and we can, you know, continue to refine them. Really, we won't have any finalized goals and objectives until after our survey, or even after our public forum finishes. But we do like to go into the public forum with at least a draft of some goals and objectives, so that we can ask targeted questions and, you know, just give a better understanding of what we're trying to accomplish with this plan.
I'm impressed with the brain trees.
Yeah?
I like it's laid out well, goals, objectives all the way down. It's neat and
And typically, I think I mentioned last time, most towns have around 4 to 5 overall goals, and then within each of those, you'll have a set of maybe 2 to 4 objectives, and then each objective has around like 2 to 3 action items. And obviously, you know, there can be more objectives for a goal, there can be more actions for an objective. That's just a good sort of rule of thumb to keep it around. A little bit more manageable that way, too. All right, so if there are no other questions about the goals, that is what I have so far. Our GIS analyst at CMRPC, he's working on making some open space maps for the plan. Once I have those, I'll stick them in the OneDrive folder. I'll send it out to all of you to look through again. Any changes you want made, if we missed anything on those plans, if you don't like sort of how it's set up, we'll make those changes, just get those back to me. But we don't have that ready yet. I expect maybe in the next month we'll get those, but definitely before the public forum we'll have those, because we'll like to print them out, or depending on the setup we have for a public forum, I like to print them out so that folks can look at them, mark them up with other items that we might have missed, or mark off their favorite open space and recreation areas, things like that.
Are those maps going to be available like to us through community development or something, so that, and are they able to be updated without going back to him? I mean,
I'm not sure about them being updated.
but what I'm thinking is he could create the map today, and a major piece of open space could be gone tomorrow,
Right.
so it's already obsolete. But if we have it, that we can then use whatever tool it is that creates maps, that we could then update it and not start from zero every time.
Sure, yeah. So typically what we do is we give a PDF of the maps, which you would not be able to update in that case. I can see if it makes sense to send GIS data as well, and then you'd be able to go into ArcGIS and update the map that way. So yeah, let me ask if I can get that from him.
I mean, we had great maps that are in the planning community development room. They were made, 10 years ago? And if you can't update them, it's...
Yeah, they become pretty outdated pretty quickly. Yeah, and then I'm also going to develop a list of questions that we can ask other committees. So we'll want input from the planning board, obviously the select board, council on aging. It's good to get their input. If there are any other committees that we should, yes. Any other committees that we want to reach out to get their initial input and see, how they see the town moving, what they want to see open space and recreation wise. It doesn't totally fall in line with all the other boards and committees, but it is good to sort of get their input on it so that we can put that in the plan as well. So I'm going to come up with that list of questions. I think historically it's been better if town residents or you're on the committee, you're in the town, you sort of potentially know the folks on the other boards and committees. If you reach out, you'll probably get a better response than me, but I am happy to reach out to all the boards and get their responses.
We could put together a letter.
Okay.
Different ones, I would think, and
Sure.
drop them in all the boxes. And
Yeah. What I'll do is for the next meeting, maybe if a letter works better, I can do that, or if email is preferred, I can do that too. But I'll come next meeting at least with something we can drop in the mailboxes. So like I said, I'm going to email out the survey again. I'll email out the goals again. You don't really have to do anything with the goals yet, but for the survey, send back any feedback. In the meantime, I'll start making that flyer, and when I have a draft, I'll send that out as well. If everything looks good in a week, I can open the survey for everybody to start sending in responses. You can start emailing around the flyers. I don't know if you have printing capabilities here, but if you don't, let me know. I can go into the office and print off a bunch of copies if you want to post them around town, or stick some at the library. And then if you want paper copies of the surveys as well, let me know, and I can print those off as well.
Danny, how do you what's the mechanism so that people, like one person can't fill it out 3 times?
I think there is an option to limit the number of responses. The only issue with that is if we have paper copies, and, say you take a stack and you're trying to put them all in, you wouldn't be able to put in those paper copies, because I think it like tracks your IP address on your computer. But I have not found that a lot of people sort of nefariously fill out the surveys. Is that an issue you've experienced in other surveys?
No, I was just curious because we want to get as broad a input as possible. Like, somebody's, or some kid decides they're going to fill it out 20 times, that doesn't give us a...
But before we ask for like the address, I think on one of them.
Or the zip code.
Yeah,
Number or something.
yeah.
Yeah, we could collect email addresses potentially, and then that way that limits who responds, or we can, tell that somebody is responding multiple times. I can also tell, because it collects the IP address of the computer that you send it in on, so I can check them to make sure that you're not getting a bunch from the same computer.
I would think if someone's going to do that sort of thing, they would do it on a computer rather than paper, so
But
tell the printing on the
Could we ask them for
paper.
their email address? Because that way,
Yeah.
when the forum comes up, we have a list that we can automatically
You
send.
could put optional too, I mean, if
Yeah.
they don't want
Yeah.
it, then.
That way we have an audience that we can immediately reach out to, make sure they know about the forum.
And then I forgot to mention, but also in the OneDrive, if you click on the folder that says Open Space and Recreation Plan, I plugged the old open space plan from 2007 in there, PDF version. And then I also plugged in the HLIP that you had sent me in that as well, in other planning documents.
There's also the master plan too.
Okay, yeah, I'll plug that into the other.
Do you have that?
We probably have it. If I can't find it in my work folders, I'll email you to see if you have it.
I don't know if it's electronic.
It's pretty old anyway. Had a lot of good old ones.
Any other questions about either the survey, the goals, or sort of our next steps? Okay, great. Well, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yep.
For my colleagues on the rec commission, will we, or can we see or have access to that OneDrive?
Yeah, for sure.
That would allow us to kind of get an idea of
I-
any questions that you have now.
Yeah, well, I'll send you a link to the OneDrive folder, and anybody who has the link has access to it, so you can share it with the other committee members as well. But yeah, that's all I had for the open space plan progress thus far.
You had asked us to look over like the recreation fields and the, what was it, the hiking, horseback riding. was the action plan. And then the beach and water access. No one did that, but I looked online for different stuff.
Okay,
I came up with a bunch of different things. If you want to just have a copy,
sure, yeah, that'd be
just
great.
take them and then, yeah, I'll bring them. And then I found a few, I did research the waterfronts. And there were a few places that are, have not paid taxes that have, a half acre on like 3 different water bodies in town, which would, could make a kayak launch or something like that. So,
Some potential target areas.
yeah, I'll give you those too.
The open space and recreation would be the correct place to deal with the listing of unknown properties in town here.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah.
So in another town, we added potential properties to target for acquisition for open space and recreation projects. The state did not recommend that, just because, like, if you're planning to target an area, you wouldn't want to advertise that to potential competitors or developers that this particular property might be up for sale or vacant. I think it's up to the committee, but that is a comment we've gotten back from the state before.
Actually, most of those are unpaid taxes, more than going around.
Okay.
Who knows, that was, last spring. So, and they followed through. All right, and I talked to the person that's involved with the ADA in town. And
Okay, great.
And I have requested a list of all town-owned properties.
Awesome.
And it's taking her quite a while to get to it, but I reminded her today. And so he said he'd be glad to walk around with me.
Okay, awesome. And if you have, I did plug it into the OneDrive, but I will put all of the ADA self-evaluation, like guidance documents and the different checklists that are in there. I'll plug that into the OneDrive so you have access to it. And if you have any questions with that, let me know. I have not done an ADA evaluation because it's usually a town responsibility, but if you have any questions with that, I'm happy to ask the state for you to get some clarification.
Did you find anything on the Viking, all those mobile oil pipeline? Yeah.
Nothing was
Kind of
ever.
random, yeah.
Nothing was ever followed up on the mobile pipeline.
Yeah.
Grant truck, town didn't do anything. We, Bay State, looked at 2 pieces to purchase, and Lisa and I had walked them. I still think that's something that we should target. Bay State, at this point, figured there wasn't enough connection worthwhile to pursue it, even if I went after grant money to purchase it. But if this goes through, then we can target grant money for the town to purchase it, because there's two pieces that are up for sale anyways. No greenway connections.
Yeah. And that land is still empty up there.
Town owned land at Northwest Main Street, Keegan property, right?
No, that's northwest, it's almost to Whittier Farms, like on the left, going northwest towards Sutton.
I don't think it.
We bought a huge piece of property and then the town did, and then they sold 5 lots at the street and retained the backland. So that's sort of a salvage for recreation, something.
Okay, so for the most part, this is like, no.
Right.
No.
Okay.
That's basically what
With
I
a
did
couple
with
thoughts.
the recreation with the same up the top.
Yeah, and that's not a problem,
It's
if we
just-
find that these are actions we still want to do, we can plug them into our new action plan, and I think we'll have,
Plenty of activity.
yes, and I feel like, you've got this standing committee, you're more likely to target these actions and not just sort of let them sit on a shelf, which every town does. I don't know that I've seen a town that's actually really done any of their past action plans, so.
How valuable we
Okay.
Yeah. That's good. Cool. So that it for Danny? You can go home if you want.
Yep, I didn't know if you wanted any of this stuff included in the open space plan at all, or if,
No, it's just for, that's, you were wondering if we had followed up on anything, and I basically I went to all those, it was a good week to do it, it was a vacation week, I went to all the recreation fields and
okay.
saw what had or hadn't been done.
I meant with your additional agenda items.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know if that's
Yeah.
stuff you don't want to keep, you don't want included, or if you did want to include it.
No,
Okay.
that's different, yeah.
Okay, all right, cool.
That's why I put you first.
All right. So look for an email from me today with some of that stuff I mentioned, and then, like I said, we'll get this out, maybe in the next week or two, depending on how many edits we want done to the survey. And I'll email you a copy of the OneDrive link so that you can send it.
I guess you're free too, Tim. if you
Yeah, I'm
want.
free too.
We can introduce you to the people on the board here. This is Kathy Richards and Becky Gallagher.
How do you do? Nice to meet you. Well, thank you for inviting me, and
So
I'm
it-
interested in part of your agenda towards the end here.
Did we
I
want
will catch
to
this
book
online.
another meeting?
Oh, yes, let's do that. Do you want to continue to meet monthly? Does that work? Or twice a month?
I think we were 3 weeks. That works for me, especially since I'm going away too.
All right. Let me my
Between.
calendar out. And Tuesdays at 1, those usually work best?
For me, it does.
That works with me. I prefer the earlier meeting instead of the nighttime.
Yes, me too.
Okay.
Sunday, April 5th.
Yep.
5th. That should work. I just check.
You guys,
Yep.
you're welcome back, Tim, if you want.
Yeah, I'm putting it in the calendar.
Okay.
I'll see what the team or the committee,
Right.
what they weigh in on, and maybe
Yep.
they'll leave another member. I think it'd be tough to get a quorum during the day.
Well, if folks can make it in the evening, we can switch a
Yeah.
meeting,
Right, we're adaptable.
Okay,
because it'd be great to get their input, earlier on the better.
Yeah.
right.
So the 5th of April's good? Okay.
That works with me. I'm open all day, so I'll put it down for 1 now, but if it works better to do it in the evening, just shoot me an email. I'll keep it open.
I don't know what all the meetings are Tuesday night. I know the Conservation Commission is the night before, which might be a good one to honk our horn at.
Yes, definitely. We usually have their input as well. I forgot to mention them. If you are going to have a quorum of another board, I believe you'll have to joint post the agenda, so just keep that in mind. All right, so expect an email from me, and other than that, I will see you April 5th. Thank you.
Tim, what was the other issue you wanted to listen in on, or we can move the agenda items?
One was the town cleanup plan, or the next one, is that on an Earth Day?
Well, that's what Conservation Commission is working on, right? And they were talking about the same date as last year when all the towns got together, and it was in August.
Oh,
I think Earth Day is, when you can actually see the trash before the greenery comes up.
right.
And it's not a hot day to wander down Route 16 with trash bag.
I also heard the one in August is connected with Zap Black.
Right, that's the original date. I don't know
Oh, but
for
I
sure.
don't think they did that last year. I think this is an anniversary. Anyway. But is there one for Earth Day?
And this Earth Day is the 22nd of
April.
kind of early to late.
I agree with you, though, we should get it before the
greenery, yeah. Is April vacation on during Earth Day week, right? It's the April 19th is Patriots Day, and that's when kids are out of school. We love to pick trash. We tried to approach them with the whole, they have to have certain points to graduate,
Yeah.
volunteer hours. So, yeah.
Good. All right, well, thank you, Wells, for including us. We'll offer as much.
Yeah. When's your next meeting?
That's a good question.
That's the way open space is.
Yeah,
We understand.
we're all now starting off our seasons and getting that kind of field
Yeah.
ready and all that,
Right.
so it's more
Yeah.
see it, feel it.
Great.
But I'll spread this along with the kids together. It's probably a couple things that we should talk about.
Yeah, things that you'd like to see.
Yeah. Cool. All right, thank you again. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's, Conservation Commission wants us to join their, or be a part of their, so,
That's in August? The one they're
well,
talking about?
the ZAP Blackstone was, apparently, I don't remember, but if it was in August, that's when they want to do it, again, with all the other towns, but
But what meeting are you going to?
I don't have anything. But
No, for the Conservation Commission?
I can go to that meeting, yep.
No, I'm just,
Yep.
I got lost on what.
No, I just-
What time is it? Or-
I think the next Conservation Commission meeting is on the 4th of April.
March 21st?
Yeah.
Oh, they said they couldn't talk about it March 20th?
No, I don't know. 21st. It's,
I'm supposed to be on March 21st one. If I'm there,
yeah,
ask.
right.
Could be an email to them. Could email Steve if he gets back to us.
Yeah. Want me to email Steve?
Yeah, that might not be a bad idea. What are their thoughts?
And the one you're going to would be the 21st, right? 21. Or 4. All right. And, okay, the next, number 5 is the Duval Road subdivision discussion, which Matt isn't here, so,
Okay. I did some homework on this.
yeah, did you look at any of the,
I saw the map and everything, but it was really late and I had to go back to the planning board meeting because I don't know when they got to it.
yeah,
Okay, so this is a map.
Oh, actually, why don't I just go get the plan?
right,
That too. The lady that made a copy of the one page,
Yeah.
I was interested in that, the house lot size. So I didn't realize that across the street, there's a town piece of property right there.
Mumford, right? Off Mumford Road.
Yes. Yep. So I actually have some thoughts. Please get back.
Yeah, that's their access. I said, boy, the people on Forest Street are gonna love that, huh? Comes right out through there. And it's like, well, maybe they put something there that they couldn't. I'm like, well, then how do they get the kids to town, to school in town? Like up on, in Webster, they have to go through Connecticut and Webster to get the ones, 3 or 4 houses.
It's a big development.
Yeah, and it's mostly in Douglas, yeah.
Yes.
But they
I drove up through there too, and it's like, a lot of the houses are set way back off the road. They have really long driveways and they're way in the woods, so I'm wondering, is that gonna right behind their houses that had all that privacy, I wouldn't be
You don't
terrified.
know now. Yeah, you find that out. Yeah.
And then there's another new development they're putting, there's one up there. What street is that? It's so ugly. It's like, there's not a tree in sight, and the houses are right on top of each other, and I'm like, that's why I moved to Douglas, because I didn't want to live like that. The whole rest of the neighborhood is beautiful, and it has trees and houses spread apart, and all of a sudden this new street has.
Yep.
But I would prefer to have Matt at a meeting so we could know better what we're looking at.
Is he not in? He's not there.
Oh,
If you two could come over here, then that way I could just explain all of this. So that's the piece of property that's getting developed. This is it right here with the access all through this way. So this is the Mumford River, which is the area of priority habitat, and I think might be ACEC too, next to the river. I was just curious what that was like, where it comes out of the road, and then this is town-owned property right here, across the street. So I blew this up, and so at the town line, so you've got access right here. So I'm thinking, okay, trail here, trail along the river. I don't know what the river looks like. Could be a bridge crossing, then trail out to the access here.
Which is,
Nope, that's over, that would be over here. So that would be actually, now this is Conservation Drive right here. So there's some place here,
there was supposed to be conservation
right-of-way.
land there too, but it's fell in the cracks.
Yeah, 24, 25. I think there was a right-of-way off of Conservation Drive right in here. So then trail down here, here, and I'm not sure about this right-of-way coming out to Wildflower Drive, but there's a possibility right there, but that's a wetland that would have to be dealt with. And then trail here, that would come up to Mumford, and then we could work on something in here, a trail loop. I would like to see, as part of the requirement for this whole development, is for them to submit a plan for a trail system.
So what, it's going to go through certain properties that they have planned?
It will go, no, it will go, it'll go here, so it's gonna come in here. That's theirs. Oops. Really
Would you
don't
like a
that.
copy of this?
I did.
Oh, okay.
So it would come here, trail through here. And let's see, this is the river right here. So I'm making it quick. I think that's the river. So trail. Here along the river. Depending on where the river is, right with this right of way, I don't know. Again, this needs to be explored on the ground. Out to here, and come out to Conservation Drive. If it's someplace in here we can put a bridge in, then we can come across here, come down in here.
Right, this is all.
This is all preserved up in here, wherever, and then follow the river on this side. Either this way, if there's whatever we need to get across the river here, and then come out here and then access to across the street.
And there is good parking on there. To get into this, it's straight up though. There's like steps, stone steps that have been built into it.
So I would like to propose to the,
but how are they dealing with this? Well,
You know, yeah, Yeah, look in these, they've got it all sketched out, it's really, it's a lot, you know, they've got all this drainage, and I mean, it's really, they're building it on top of the marsh. You know, they've got everything all figured out where you can actually put the house and on your little plot that's dry. And
Yeah, drainage right there, probably retention ponds, another drainage right there. 'Cause that's wetlands.
yeah, see, these lots are not,
But this is also submitted as a open space subdivision plan. This is submitted as a conventional plan?
That I don't know.
no, that looks great.
But I would like to see, can we request of the Open Space Committee that as part of this development, that they provide a complete, survey assessment of a trail plan in here that could actually, something that could be presented to Conservation Commission or whoever to get the trail done.
Right. Because, that's what we're talking about, is making sure that we can get a little bit of green space for every development.
Well, I think we have to ask it through the planning board though, right?
I don't know if it's Conservation Commission, I'm not sure. Yeah, probably Planning Board.
Because that's what,
Yes, they're the ones that would, I guess, have the final say over it.
we could get some guidance from that.
I'm sure, give Matt that and run with it.
No, we have to. We can get guidance from him, but we have to make the request because
Well, he said he was going to do this.
And there's so many studies and stuff like that that have proved that, if you've got something right behind your house or within 5 minutes to utilize
Buddy
trails and stuff
conservation, yeah,
like that,
it's a big seller, yeah. The
it's a
valley,
win-win situation for everybody.
right. Those kids need a place to go hang out. They run around the trails.
but also
I'd personally like to ask them to actually put the trail system in. I don't know if we can go that far. I have no idea.
But also, what's the plan for this open space? Are they going to retain ownership of this? Do they have a plan? Do they want the town to take it over? What is?
No idea.
Yeah, we need to know more about that too.
Is Matt here today?
I can see.
You might be in another meeting.
I'm walking down there and seeing.
I can look for names and then just see if it's there and I'll bring it back.
Those are my thoughts. Guys, it's not
I think it's in
bad. See, this- I want to see this stuff. They're gonna do it, I think, because I would like to see them build it.
Right. Yeah, rather than just abandoning it for us.
Yeah.
Put something like the playground, which I don't go up North Street, but that condo development has a playground right up the street they had required to put in. As part of the development, and that was a few years ago.
I thought that's what was in the old plan, was like any new developments had to set aside conservation there.
So that new plan was never accepted. It was never really, the last plan, yeah, the last plan attempt. So, yeah. Tricky. Yeah. Well, I think it's, 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 I think it's
sometimes from the gym to go the back way through those streets, and it's just like,
Yes,
quiet.
order everyone there. Just like what Market Basket did for Northwest Maine.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave him right there because he's,
Sorry, I'm not feeling too good lately.
Well, we looked at the Duval plan, Duval
Yeah.
Road plan, and Becky came up with a great trail throughout that would be a good request for us to make.
Oh, okay. Like a trail kind of incorporated within a development? Okay.
There you go. So basically, I drew those trails around where there is no development. It would be one on either side of the Mumford River to access Mumford Road, Conservation Drive,
Mary Lynn Reed's.
and I would,
Plus,
two spots that we could get river crossing, the bridge over the rivers and stuff, over the Mumford River.
there's that,
conceptual, but we haven't been on the ground.
Yes.
Of course.
Conceptual, so,
and then there's a panhandle there to the Conservation Drive too.
Right.
that goes where it comes out.
Yeah, it's
to
about
Mumford.
20 feet wide, right there. Yep.
When it comes out onto Mumford, there's town-owned property across the street that we could then work on making, or if there's trails in there already, I don't know. But there's this, and for any development to have trails like that
Oh, yeah.
in their backyard is actually a huge boom.
And it definitely came up at the meeting about how all 110 acres were supposed to be town-owned, and now they're not.
Yeah.
They're preserving 55 acres of it, about half of it or so.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're not kind of touching this general area except for where it is Duval Road, so I'll pitch this to the engineer.
But also, do they have an idea of who would retain ownership of that property?
It has to go one of two ways. It would either be gifted to the town once everything's finished,
Yeah.
or it would have to be remaining in a private trust in perpetuity as conservation land.
Okay. And then, this is a conventional plan. Do we have open space plan
I'm not sure what you mean.
for the subdivision? Do we have like a high density plan or?
Oh, no, they're just going conventional.
But do we have an open space subdivision?
Yeah, a flexible development.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. The engineer informed the board and the audience here on last Thursday that the economic feasibility in pursuing that option didn't make sense for them numerically.
Okay.
And considering they were going to end up gifting 55 acres on their own, they felt would have been good enough for them, I guess. So
Do you think we could get them to include building that trail?
it's worth asking. It's definitely a good question, and a lot of the abutters raised the ability to use the open space that's being preserved, so it's a good idea.
So should we participate through the planning board or what do you recommend?
Would you like to make a recommendation by vote that I can pass on to the board?
Yes, we would. So I move that you pass Becky's plan on to the board.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very well, I'll pass that along. I'll put a little letter together for you to sign, so that can work.
Let me know when it's in. I'll
Great.
Check my box.
Sure. Any other questions?
So we also have on here this Oak Street, Chapter 51.
Yes. Do you guys make a,
We have not, I've not gotten that in the box or anything, so.
I have a technical question on this.
sure.
I had sent you an email on this. So, Chapter 61A qualifications are, property must consist of 5 contiguous acres of land under the same ownership, actively devoted, blah, 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 blah. What is going to be left in this map for Chapter 61A is here, 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 and then this main parcel here. This piece, and this piece are not contiguous
unless they're transferring the entire thing as a whole, I would imagine. It's probably what
The way
they're,
it is right now, they wanted to keep this parcel around the house, this yellow, and this yellow as all Chapter 61. Cannot be done.
it's bizarre.
So if you want,
I think only where this applies is based off of what's trying to be transferred, not what's remaining. The 5-acre parcel being the piece that's up for discussion. What's being left, I don't think that affects that same statute. I think that's the opposite end of that. Could be wrong. But
I read it was the land around
yeah, it's 5 acres or more, or contiguous, that has to be considered by the town as part of its first right of refusal. If it was less,
so
it
it's
would be
they're
considered.
asking for, I didn't put down the other thing.
Yeah, they're asking for, what is it, 31 acres or so to be reclassified as under a different tax classification.
For
They're asking if-
solar.
Yeah, so they're
Solar.
asking if the town wants to own this property and collect income off the solar
Yeah.
agreement, because that's essentially what would happen.
Right.
So,
But they won't be able to keep the rest of that into Chapter 61.
No, just the piece that's being scored out here, the 31 and change. That's
I'm
it.
going to have to go back and reread that, the letter that I went with that. I did not print that out.
Those other pieces are already 61 and they're not being affected. They're just looking at transferring what's involved.
So how do they keep
But my-
the old ones if they're not contiguous?
Right. If they take all that out in the middle, right there, it's not 61A anymore.
It's weird, why would you even want those?
So and that's what happens with those other pieces that are not contiguous anymore.
I see. Find out, it's a good question. Appreciate that.
so when we consider these, so we don't have, I have a copy of the letter. We don't, the committee didn't get a copy of the letter?
I apologize for that. I thought I kind of attached it, but I'll have those printed for next meeting and they'll be in front of you guys, but I'll make sure we send it out in advance. I didn't realize I just sent it to you. I apologize.
But what's the value attached? Whenever we look at one of these requests to remove from
Refuse it.
protection.
Yeah.
We buy it. And if it's a good price.
Yeah, you had asked that question before. I think all the selectmen are looking for right now is general interest. They're not looking for the financial aspect of that. They just want to know, would we want this for, at all, for any reason,
Okay.
regardless of cost? Do we find a benefit in this being under the town's ownership? What could it be used for? This is odd, and in most cases, you're looking at undeveloped land, or just an existing field. This is a field with an approved solar agreement.
Well,
So-
and that goes back to why are we looking at this stage in the process?
Yes, because, as you know, through Mass General law, it has to go through this 120-day first right.
But if it doesn't have a value attached, it's not a bona fide offer.
Right, it'd have to be a renegotiated lease, I would imagine.
So those are, I guess, some of our questions.
Yeah, one thing the town administrator told me was that this would have to be assessed for market rate, and they'd be looking to purchase for a market rate. But without interest, they're not going to do that sort of homework yet. So,
You mean the town would have to have an appraisal?
yeah, exactly.
Okay. But still, it's not a bona fide offer.
Right. We're just trying to decide if yes or no we even want to look any further at this.
But if it's, okay, I'm a little confused about an appraisal at this stage because we don't know what the offer is.
Right.
Usually it has a P&S, right? And it says-
Sure. That further along, absolutely. It's just, all they're looking for now is if any committees are interested in this, and so far nobody is. So if Open Space wants to be the first committee to say that we express interest in ownership, perhaps there will be more requests for information to follow. I'm just looking for that basic vote of interest first, before we get any further.
Okay, so that we don't have the information in order to
All we have is the sheet that you see.
been able to make that decision yet, so you could distribute that to all the members, and
Sure.
I guess we put it on our next agenda.
Okay. Great.
Also, there's one, the future subdivision review in early stages.
Sure.
Remind you of that.
Yeah, so how do you want to do that? So there's a couple, well, ultimately, our bylaws say that we need to get feedback from other towns and departments, other town departments, and, you know, police, fire, water, sewer, et cetera. Usually they try to get comments from ZBA or conservation, regulatory boards that have approved or not. But something that contains a parcel of contiguous open space like this, I think it's pertinent that it should go to the open space for a recommendation. Two ways to do that. A, I could just remember to do that. B, we could put that in the subdivision regulations as a requirement, and the board could vote to authorize it. That's probably what we'll do.
Yeah, because you can't, it shouldn't be your responsibility to remember every little thing. Yeah.
Oh, but it is. So yeah, that'll be a pitch for the regulations. That's not something that has to go to town meeting or anything. They could, the board, if they see language they want to change in their regs, they can do that at one of their meetings. So,
That's a planning board.
yep.
So who would initiate that? You?
Yes,
Okay. That won't work.
sure.
Because am I going to remember this?
No worries. Sure thing.
Feel better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we go get you some emergency or something?
Yeah, I'm going away in 2 days. Right. That sort of covers it.
But let's stay on top of that, request the planning board for this.
Yeah.
Because I think they met last Thursday, so their next meeting would probably be 2 weeks. Right? The next planning board meeting would be 24th?
And that's the one Becky was thinking she might be going to, there's
Oh, that's
a subdivision. Any new business? We have enough business?
good.
Alright, yeah, we'll look over the, Danny wants us to look at some comments of the draft survey especially. That's a big push.
Review the goals.
Yeah. Well, emails